everyone, it's Robert here. Today I'm going to do something different. I decided to do something a little bit different, and instead of doing a sewing tutorial, I'm actually going to take you along with me when I copy a pattern. So I've had this shirt I did several years ago, and I really like the fit. I copied it from a shirt that I had purchased, and I copied it using another computer pattern making program. And I got this, and I made it with this. Now, I made this pattern in another computer program called TukaCAD. I used to teach it, and I also used to teach Gerber AccuMark, and I also taught Pad System, and Pad System is what I use and what I have on my computer. So today I'm going to show you how I'm copying this pattern without really having a digitizing pad to just actually draw it into the computer. I'm actually just going to what I call frame it, and you can kind of see I've already drawn up some lines on the original pattern here. So I'm going to explain how I'm doing that on this pattern and then copying the measurements into the pattern software. So just be aware that I've really sped up the video and I am doing a voiceover. So just be aware of that. I wanted to do some shorter videos, and so that's why everything is sped up. So I think this video is roughly about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that. So I hope you enjoy it. You get to see how I kind of copy my paper patterns and put them into the computer system. And I actually may be doing a couple more tutorials on the computer system that I use. But I will decide that, or let me know down in the comments if you would like to see more computer pattern making tutorials, and I can kind of get on board with that. So with that said, let's get into making this pattern. Okay, here we go. And this is going to go pretty quick because I've sped things up. So I'm using a framing method, and that's basically where I'm just basically making squares and rectangles for the measurements of the pattern. And this is the left front. And you'll see me on the pattern software that I use to frame it out after I've done all of my measurements. That's what I'm getting ready to do now. So I'm working on the left front, and basically I started with the largest rectangle, and then I am going to add my lines for my height. I think this is from the chest level, and so there I put my shoulder point and then my neck point, and I've got the neck. I'm going to curve the neck in just a minute, but I'm working on the armhole opening now. Here, and then once I get rid of those lines, I can create a curve point at the bottom of the armhole, which just curves it for me, and I'm just fixing it up now. And there's the neck curve, and now I'm going to be lengthening the shirt, that extra length in the front, to create the shirt tail in the front. And that's really all there is to doing or copying the pattern. And of course you can do this on paper as well, but I'm using computer software. So I'm just going to name it, and then I'm going to save the pattern, and all the pattern pieces will be saved in the same file. So now I'm working on the back, and the back for this shirt was actually 2 pieces, which gave it a lot more shape, and I don't really need that much shape anymore, so later on I'm going to put these 2 pieces together to make one solid piece. Take some of the fittedness out of it. I don't need the fittedness part anymore, unfortunately. So when we get back to the pattern software, I forgot that I needed to do the right front. So, and here we are. So I've copied the left front, and I've mirrored it to create the right front. And then I just created the mirror facing, a fold back facing for the buttons. And now I'll start working on the 2 back pieces. So again, I framed it out, and I'm starting with rectangles, and then I'm just putting the shape in for the extraneous parts, or the longer parts past that rectangle. And then I'm finding out where that shape was. I wanted to create these 2 back pieces just like I had the pattern, just in case that's the way if I want to sell the pattern, then I can give you options for if you want a more fitted shirt with seams in the back, or not. You can have a flat back. And again, I just framed it up where from the chest level point which is I go from the underarm point up to where the shoulder line is, and I'm just curving that back. Now this looks shorter than the front because there is a yoke that we'll be constructing in a little bit. So again, here for the back, I'm just creating that tail, giving it a little bit of shape there. And here I'm actually just walking the pattern. I'm just making sure that my lengths are equaling each other because one piece has more shape to it than the other. And I'm doing that to the sides. So this is just part of the truing of your patterns that you should be doing as you're drafting your patterns. Go ahead and true everything as you go so you don't have to do all that at the end. And then name all your pattern pieces and save them. So what am I doing now? Oh, I am working on the yoke now, so I'm going to frame that out. This one goes pretty quickly because it's a smaller piece. And I'm working on the pattern. As you can see me working on the pattern at the same time. So this actually really didn't take me that long, and you'll see me actually creating this pattern coming up in just a minute. But I just wanted to say that, again, you can do everything that I'm doing on paper as well. You can do the frame method. You'll just need your curve rulers. The nice thing about computer pattern making is that you can do all the curves and adjusting everything in the computer without having to retrace and copy and add paper or take paper away. So that's why I like working on the computer, because it saves me a lot. One, it saves me a lot of time, and it saves me a lot of paper. So I guess I'm not going to show you the yoke just yet on the computer because I'm going to, looks like the collar band, the neck band for the collar, and I'm just doing the same thing by just getting my lengths. And what am I doing here? Oh, I'm just checking on the length because I don't think I did the button placket on the front. I'm just going to go back and do that, and now I'm going back to the neckband. I'm doing these two things at the same time. That's me being a little scatterbrain, working on 10 different things at the same time. So, yep, I'm working on the neckband there on the computer. I can see that on the computer screen. I think I was just checking the curve, that the curves look similar to what I was creating in the computer. So, and there will be adjustments later on. Okay, so we're back to the computer, and I'm actually building out the yoke right now from my measurements. Again, this time I didn't start with a rectangle. I actually just started with lines and the length of the lines, and then I'm connecting the lines. And you probably won't see it, but in this particular computer program, in order to work with what we're calling a polygon, you actually need to have it recognized as a closed shape. So I had to do that a couple of times when I just start with lines. And here I'm just truing up and making sure all those points, the lengths and widths match. So now what am I going to start here? I think I had to go back and measure something. And it looks like I'm working on the neckband. I'm just making sure that my widths and lengths are correct for that neckline, because I think it seemed a little off from what I was getting on the pattern. So I don't want that. Sometimes when you're making shirt patterns, the neck can get really, really big for some reason. And I think that has to do with how much they tell you to drop the neck. And how wide to make the neck. So I'm just making sure that I don't really want it to be larger than 15 and a half because that's about the size of my neck. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting that size right. So I'm just cleaning up or working on this neckband right now. And I do a lot of things by eye. So if you see me undoing things, it's because I didn't like the shape of it. And I'm just kind of using my eye and going back and kind of zhuzhing things up, giving them really nice curves on the pattern piece. And I think eventually I'll have to go back and make some corrections. So I'm actually working on the actual collar part, and I really like this collar. It's very simple. It doesn't have a lot of shape to it. But the reason I like it is because it's a shorter collar in height, but it really hugs the neckband and it kind of stays out of the way so it doesn't flap around a lot. So I kind of like the the slimness of this collar. And you'll see me put it, create it in the computer right now. I'm just doing some measurements from the neckband, right, to make sure that I'm getting the width of the collar that I like, and that's where I want the collar to end once I sew it on. And the top of the collar is actually going to be straight, and I'm actually putting the shape into the collar area where it gets inserted into the neckband. And by doing that, following the opposite side of the curve, it actually creates the shape of the outer edge of the collar, and that's why it hugs so much. And now my favorite thing, sleeves. So sleeves can be the death of you because sometimes they'll fit in and sometimes they don't, you know, depending on how high you make your cap. I'm copying this one. I really like the way the sleeve fits, but I'm not sure I'm going to get the fit accurate. So sleeves are always one of the, you know, trial and error, and you'll just have to make some corrections. So I take a lot of measurements on the sleeve. And now I'm creating it here, and I'm doing it by the line method. I've still framed it out, but I'm not using a rectangle. I'm just doing a line, and I don't mirror one side to the other. So on this one, I'm just creating all of the high points, the center high point, and then the two side high points, and then the edge of the sleeve. And then between all those quadrants is where I actually make my curves. And again, you can do this on paper. You'll just have to have all your rulers ready. So later on, I'll do another video on how easy it is to actually to make a sleeve in this computer program. It actually can be even shorter than that. So here I'm just going back and I'm renaming everything, all my pattern pieces, to make sure I've got names on them, because in this program there are two views. There's a plan view and there's a piece view. And the piece view is where you put your seam allowances. So as long as you have everything named in the plan view, it comes over to the piece view. And I just made the front buttonhole placket. That's what that was. And now I am actually measuring up where my buttonholes are going to be. And so I'm going to go back to the placket, and which was just a copied version of the left front. And now I'm going to create where my buttonholes are. So if you can see this, I draw a center line on where that placket is, and then where the top button goes and where the bottom button goes. And then I divide that area into, I think it was fifths. So there are 6 buttons, 5 or 6 buttons. And then I just added like punch holes there for the time being. And then what am I doing? Oh, there's a band that went on the sleeve. So I'm just creating the band for the bottom of the sleeve. And I'm just probably going to mirror that because I want to make sure that angle on that is the same. And here I go, mirroring that. And then put the notches. And then I think I'm going around and I'm just making sure I have all of the notches that I like. And I'm not being particularly crazy about the notches because I know how to sew this together. But if I sell this pattern, there will be a lot of notches for you. Oh, this is where I just made this. You missed that, but I made the solid back piece. And now I'm mirroring all of the parts that should not be cut on the fold, which are the collar and the neckband, and the yoke, which should not be cut on the fold. So you should actually be cutting those on the straight grain. The yoke you could actually cut on the bias or on the cross grain, but I like my collars and neckbands to be cut on the straight grain. Yep, there go my sleeve notches, and I'm just making sure everything kind of walks. I'm putting a notch there where the center of the sleeve should be coming on. And then I think I should be going to piece view. I'm not sure I recorded that. Okay, I'm just making sure that I've got the notches in all the places that I like them to be again. And I could have done this as I went, but I just go back at the end and just make sure everything is actually lining up. I think I had to retrue the sleeve there. I think I had to add a little bit more space to the sleeve. That's why I'm spending a little bit more time on the sleeve, because it wasn't matching up with the armhole. So I just expanded the sleeve a little bit. There we go. And if I have time, I'll do another video where I kind of explain what I'm doing. But I'm not using the web version of this software. I'm using, it sits on my computer as an actual software that I own. Okay, so here I'm just aligning everything to go into piece view. Piece view is where you add the seam allowances. There are two views, and again, a plan view and a piece view. And I'm creating these as what's called a piece clone. And that means that whatever I do to the plan version of the pattern, it automatically happens to the piece clone. So you don't have to go back and adjust that. The piece clone is what is actually printed out and you're using for cutting and sewing. So I'm just putting in the seam allowances on here, and I know it's going really fast, but this is actually the thing that I think takes the longest, is actually putting all the seam allowances on, making sure that you've got all your seam notches and everything in the correct place, and that your curves look really good for the sewing. So that's what I'm doing here. And then once I get done with this, then I usually save it, and then I'll export it for printing. So there's the sleeve band that I'm putting seam allowance on, and then the placket for the buttonholes. And you can see a little closer up version there. So I'm kind of coming to the end of the pattern drafting. Now I'm exporting. Okay, so here it is. This is the finished sample. I made it out of this really fun tropical-esque fabric that I've had for a little while. It actually turned out pretty good. The fit is okay. I need to add a little bit here to the sides. I think it's still a little too snug for me. And I had, if you can see the back, I used the solid piece instead of the two-piece that I was talking about, because it made it a little bit too fitted for me. So I may just extend the side a little bit. I do like the sleeves, but I think I need to fix a little bit of the sleeve opening here. It's gaping here just a little bit, so I need to tighten that up a little bit. I do like the shoulder slope on this, and that's one of the reasons I really liked the original shirt that I had, and that's why I copied it, because I really like the shoulder slope. I think the height or the angle of the shoulder slope is really good for me. I also really like the collar. It's really snug around the whole neckband, but I do need to widen the neck area a little bit and lower it in the back, because the fabric keeps rolling up when I move around. So those are a couple of the corrections that I need to make to the pattern before I make another one. So I did want to say that I did want to show me cutting the fabric out and sewing everything up, but I had some issues with the recording of the videos. Sometimes it recorded and some it didn't, and I didn't realize that I didn't have enough room on my camera. So I'm sorry that I didn't get that, but maybe on the next sample I will walk you through the sewing the shirt up, or maybe by that time I'll feel comfortable enough with the fit that I will grade it and then put it up for sale. So that's always my objective. So I hope you enjoyed watching me copy this pattern and understand how I get it into the computer system. I know it was sped up really fast and that I went through it really fast, but I will probably do a tutorial on how to make a basic pattern, like maybe a t-shirt or a tank top, just to walk you through some of the finer or nicer details of pad system software. It is something that you can rent for your own, on your own. It's good on a PC or a Mac, and that's kind of the difference between this system and other systems, is that it doesn't matter what platform you're using. So I just want to put a disclaimer there. I don't get paid by Pad System to say this or to push the product. I'm not really pushing the product, but it's just a product that I use. I use a system that is actually on my computer. I don't use the web version. Again, I don't get paid by Pad System. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you like to receive notifications when I upload a new video, subscribe and hit the notification buttons. Thanks again for watching, and as always, be well.